afternoon, friends. My name is Philani Nyatsanza. Welcome to the weekly program, The Path of the Torah. I'm excited to be with you. And in this brand new year, as we start a brand new book, it's an exciting book, just showing us what Hashem has in store for his people. And so I would like to encourage you and to invite you to join us on af.shuvu.africa so that you can be with us and you can enjoy some of the teachings that you're seeing right now. And also you can ask any questions and the good rabbi will be there to answer them. That address again is af.shuvu.tv. I hope you got that. I made a little bit of a mistake at the beginning, but it's af.shuvu.tv. You want to follow us because then you can ask any questions to do with the Torah, any questions to do with the programs that we're launching. And we are excited that now Africa is really on the map concerning these teachings, and you want to be a part of that. You can actually become a student on the URI program that is specifically run for Africa or for those who are of African American origin. And so you want to be able to follow us and get some of those teachings and be able to go in depth in terms of studying the Torah, the word that Hashem has got for us. And we are excited to have you. And this week, my topic is really looking at how Africa cares for Israel. As we look into Exodus, there's a great deal that is happening there. So I want to read Exodus chapter 1 with you, and I want you to follow with me. And I'm reading my beautiful Bible that the Rabbi gave me here. And you want to be reading with me as well. So I'm reading the first 22 verses. So it's from verse 1 to verse 22. And you want to be there with me. It says from verse 1, these are the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt with Yaakov. Each man came with his household: Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All told, there were 70 descendants of Yaakov. I want you to pick that number, 70 descendants of Yaakov. Joseph was already in Egypt. Joseph died, as did all his brothers and all that generation. The descendants of Israel were fruitful, increased abundantly, multiplied, and grew very powerful. The land became filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt. He knew nothing about Joseph, but said to his people, look, the descendants of Israel have become a people too numerous and too powerful for us. Come, let's use wisdom in dealing with them. Otherwise, they will continue to multiply, and in the event of war, they may ally themselves with our enemies, fight against us, and leave the land altogether. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. And they built for Pharaoh the storage cities of Pithom and Ramesses. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more they multiplied and expanded, until the Egyptians came to dread the people. The more they forced them and oppressed them, the more they multiplied and expanded, making their lives bitter with hard labor, digging clay, making bricks, all kinds of field work, and in all this toil, they were shown no mercy. Moreover, the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, one of them who was called Shiphrah and the other Puah. When you attend to the Hebrew woman and see them giving birth, he said, if it's a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her leave. However, the midwives were God-fearing women, so they didn't do as the king of Egypt ordered, but let the boys leave. The king of Egypt summoned the midwives. And why have you done this to let the boys leave? The midwives answered Pharaoh, it's because the Hebrew women aren't like the Egyptian women. They go into labor and give birth before the wives arrive. And, you know, they're very powerful. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: every boy that is born, throw in the river. Let all the girls leave. Now, this is happening in Africa, and it tells us that Joseph has died, and his brothers have all died. So the 70 who came into Africa had died off. And another king rose up who didn't know about Joseph. It could have been the same king with new laws. And they say these people are too numerous, too powerful. They are multiplying. They may overtake us. So let's give them lots and lots of hard labor. But the word tells us that the more they oppressed them, the greater they increased. And today, my discussion is Africa cares for Israel. At the end of Bereshit, we see Yaakov is laid to rest. His son Joseph grows up, and although he's the youngest, again dies, and his family lays him to rest. And then his brothers all die. And from this group of 70, Israel begins to multiply so much that Egypt is concerned. In Africa, in Egypt, the children of Israel, as it is written, became fruitful. They multiplied. They increased in number. They increased in wealth and in their flocks. They were proliferate, so much that Egypt was worried that they would overrun them. They would overtake. They would take charge, and they would overcome them. But here are some points to note. Joseph had saved Africa from hunger. Remember, it was him who came and translated the dream of Pharaoh and was able to manage the resources put at his disposal. And as a result, Egypt prospered. Even though there was terrible hunger, Egypt prospered. They had food to eat. They had even enough to give to other lands, to other people, to other nations. As we can see, people were coming to Egypt to get food. Pharaoh's strength and throne was established and strengthened because of the wisdom of Joseph. And Pharaoh in turn made Joseph prime minister, a powerful man in Africa, to manage, to direct, and to ensure that Egypt's prosperity continues. And even though the intentions of Pharaoh were to hurt the Israelites, were to enslave them, were to ensure that they had no strength left to multiply, they would start to decrease. We are told in the word that they actually increased. Their numbers grew. They became numerous. And this, for me, is a miracle. The 70 became hundreds, became thousands, became tens of thousands. By the time Moses comes into the play, there are over a million people. This is a miracle, because the opposite is supposed to happen. When you're enslaved and when you are put under difficult conditions and oppressed, your numbers decrease. But here, during the enslavement, Hashem's miraculous hand is seen in Israel. Who is hiding in Africa? Who is, leaving in Africa? They increase in number. During that exile, they increase in number. They gave birth to 4 or to 6 children. At the beginning of Exodus, we see an instruction to count the number. So we see them being counted. The 12 are counted, and then the different names are put there. This shows us, as in Isaiah 40, verse 26, that he calls up by name those whom he loves. They were, in fact, the sages say they were like stars. They were numerous like stars, fulfilling what Abraham had been told. that your descendants will be as numerous as the stars of the sky. And as he calls them as stars, guess what? In Isaiah, he says he knows each star by name. And so that counting of the children of Israel in Africa during that oppression, during that difficult time, Adonai cares. He knows each and every one of them by name. In fact, he calls them by name. As he numbers them, as he counts them, he is accounting for each and every one of them. A sign and a reflection of the deep love and concern that he had for Israel, even while Israel is in exile. Even when Israel is under oppression, Hashem shows that he cares. He counts. He knows each one of them by name. He calls the stars like stars. He calls each and every one of them by name. Africa is blessed to have looked after Hashem's favorite, to have been able to cradle Africa's best, to have been able to provide a great place of exile for that which Hashem had a purpose and a plan for them. I have a word for you, Israel, today. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what's happened to you. It doesn't matter what they say about you. It doesn't matter what they do to you. Hashem loves you, cares for you, and knows you by name. In Zimbabwe, we have some of the clan of Israel, our Lemba brothers, scattered across the length and the breadth of Africa. I want to say to you, my brothers, Hashem loves you. Hashem knows you. Hashem calls you by name. Hashem has a purpose for you. And Hashem wants to save you. Wherever you are, whatever your name is, regardless of what has happened to you, regardless of what they say about you, regardless of the current environment or a political or social situation you may be in, as we look at Israel in Egypt under oppression, three things happened. They multiplied, they became mighty, and they prospered. That is the sign that Hashem would want you to have wherever you are today. Israel, you'll prosper, you'll multiply, you'll become mighty, because Hashem has that plan for you. Surely Africa has been good to Israel. And Hashem, your father, knows you by name. Our sages of old tell us that the counting and naming are amongst love's most powerful expression. So I believe in this time, count it all joy that you have been recognized, that you have been counted and accounted for. It means there is a God who loves you. He knows the numbers of hairs on our head. It's not about the hairs. It is, in fact, an essence that Hashem cares about every single detail of everyone who has been called according to his name. So to the nations, you and I, the Gentiles, Hashem cares for you because he knows the numbers of strands of hair in your head. That's how much detail he has concerning your life. The fact that each and every one of us has a unique set of footprints. As we read this weekly Parashat, let's have a clarity of understanding that Hashem loves us and Hashem cares for us about every detail. The plans that we have for this year, the plans that he's got for the nation, the plans that he's got for our dear Shuvu, the plans that he has for each and every congregation that's meeting in India, in Netherlands, in Germany, in England, in Israel. He cares about each and every one of those, and he understands the minutest detail and wants to make provisions for that. He knows everybody's location. He is leading us if we care to listen and to hear his voice. He is directing us in case We may not see clearly. Our ears are opened and tuned in to what his Spirit is saying to us. During that difficult time in Egypt, Israel cried, and Hashem heard, and Hashem reckoned, and Hashem was making a plan for salvation from Egypt to Canaan. There is a plan, and that plan is that you leave Egypt and you enter into Canaan. And what we're reading is saying that even in Egypt, difficult as it is, you multiply, you prosper, you become mighty. In the meantime, God is making a plan to enter into Canaan. And once you enter into Canaan, you enter into the fullness of his glory and his plans for you. He listens and hears every prayer. Even prayers said under the breath, he hears those prayers. Even prayers said on one's deathbed, he hears those prayers. We are currently all inundated and oppressed by this COVID-19 pandemic. Hashem has a plan, Hashem has a purpose, and Hashem sees through the enemy's plans, which are meant to kill, steal, and destroy. But Hashem has given us Yeshua so that you and I can have life and life in abundance. Our Father is like a shepherd who knows his sheep by name. And daily he counts them to ensure that they are well looked after, they are well provided for, they are well watered, and the sheep know their Father by name. So my brothers and sisters, as we look at Jacob and his 12 sons, they were all different. Each had great strength, each had weaknesses. But when the reckoning comes, Hashem sees them as one, and that is Israel. He's called out one. He's separated one. And we as Gentiles yearn and are engrafted into Israel to become his as well. And what does that mean? It means that he knows us by name. It means that he's leading us. It means that he is guiding and directing us. And why is that so important? Then, irregardless of the chaos, the oppression, the difficulties that we see in the world, like the children of Israel in Egypt, we prosper, we become mighty, and we multiply. And his kingdom is established in our lives. Today, I challenge you. In Africa and across the world, Hashem cares for you. Hashem will deliver you from this current challenge and difficulty. He will make you come out stronger. He will multiply you. He will proliferate you. Look to him and depend on him. And that's the unwritten story we see about Israel in Parashat Shmot. They cried out to God, say, save us. You promised to our forefathers that you would deliver us. Where are you? And then he makes a way. Moses rises up and leads Israel into Canaan. Another hidden nugget that comes in that story that I love so much is the midwives who were instructed and commanded by Pharaoh to kill every boy child. They didn't. In fact, they made a plan to ensure that the boys lived. We have similar heroes in our midst today who are following the words of Hashem and obeying the words of Hashem. And he is using them to preserve and to help us overcome this. And one of them is dear Rabbi Shapira. He has written that amazing book, The Gospel According to COVID. it helps us to understand the plans that Hashem has got for us. So my dear brothers and sisters, the power has just gone out in Africa. But it does not mean I'm in the darkness. All it means is that though darkness comes, Hashem overcomes. Hashem helps us to prosper, even in the midst of these difficult times. Have a blessed year. Have a blessed season. Continue to follow Hashem and continue to study His Word. We look forward to seeing you on af.u.tv. Bring in your questions and Rabbi will answer them. And you can participate in more discussions that we have for you. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. I love you.